video. Today I'm going to tell you what has ever happened to me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is private chat. Fun. Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys pretty much the funniest thing that has happened to me ever. Like, ever. Okay, and this is the story about how I got kicked out of high school. Now, it wasn't like a normal, like, someone going and having a fight or doing something like stupid as fuck or going and smoking on school property, which I did do. But fucking, I got kicked out for the funniest reason. Okay, I'm gonna check something real quickly, see if it's still on. Okay, yeah, my gameplay is still on, which is great fun. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you guys how I got kicked out of high school. Now, this isn't just a normal story or anything like that. This is how I got kicked out of high school for the stupidest reason, literally in 2016. So I've been kicked out. No, not 2016. Here, I'll actually get everything all sorted out and fully fact out. Because I know for a fact it was around the first post that I posted back then. So, let me just do this so that way I have my stream up over there. Okay. So, what pretty much happened was oof. This was pretty much a fucked up year. This was in 2018. Alright? And this is like late 2018, early 2019. Alright? And it's like the time that you wouldn't really give a fuck. Like, school's almost out, and like you wouldn't really give two shits. You'll be gone for winter break and all that stuff. Well, one day, I pretty much had a snapping point. Now, reminder, I was the kid that would show up out of the blue, and I'll get to that reasoning in a minute. Actually, no, I should get to that reasoning beforehand. So, we're going to do that one. We're going to go to the main reason beforehand, and then we'll go to how I got suspended. So, if you guys watched my videos from 2018, like all the way back into 2018, you guys would obviously know I wasn't streaming, I wasn't putting out videos, I wasn't doing anything. And that was because about 8 family members, like my family members, not other people's family members that I knew and stuff like that. I mean like 8 of my family members. And they weren't just distant relatives. They were my great-grandfather, my cousin, and my first cousin, my aunt, my uncle. Like, it was so messed up. But I had a lot of people die in that 1 year. Actually, in a 2-month span, to be exact. So, what happened was I went through a mental breakdown to the point that I needed to go to therapy and I needed to actually think for a year. So, that's what I did. And I told the school I'm going to be gone for a year so that way I can have my mental thoughts, because I did go back to the school when all this was going down. And I went to the school before my uncle died, street from the school, because they were looking after me while my mom and my grandmother and everyone was looking after my uncle. My aunt and uncle were taking care of me. So my uncle went and brought me across to the school, and they told me that I was late and shit like that. I was like, I don't give a fuck if I'm late. And my uncle hit me upside the head and said, treat these girls with respect. They work here. They're not just here for fun. And then the principal came out. And then I asked the principal, can we go into her office. I need to talk to her. It's important. So what happened was she told us to come back in 20 minutes and she would have a principal's meeting. Now, if you guys don't know what a principal's meeting, it's pretty much where they have the vice principal, like all the vice principals. And if you guys don't know this, but schools where I live, I don't know if it's where everyone else lives or if it's like that for everyone else, but schools where I live, there's like 4 to 5 vice principals and 1 principal. That's for the high schools. Well, all of those vice principals knew me by my name. Like, they didn't knew me by my look. They knew me by my name after this for this specific reason. They called a principal's meeting, and me and my uncle sat down with them, and my uncle was explaining, hey, listen, my nephew got hit by a car, and stuff like that. So, give me a second, I'm just gonna turn down everything in my room so that way I'm a little quieter, because light keeps me loud, which is really weird, but it's true. So when that happened, my uncle was pretty much just explaining, hey, listen, my nephew, he got hit by a car. His mom and his grandmother are at the hospital with him, doing everything that they can to be there with him, and his mom wanted me to look after him and make sure he goes to school and everything. And so I'm just like, okay, no problem. He's pretty much got this all taken care of. And they asked me what my mental health was like, and I lied to them fully. I'm like, my mental health is perfect right now, and I was being sarcastic. And they're like, okay, then you don't mind going to class, you don't mind going to do all this stuff. I'm like, no problem. So what I did was I did go to class, and what happened was my teacher was informed, and he told me if I need any breaks during any time to go outside, just tell him I'm going outside for a smoke. My teacher was the teacher that didn't care what you were doing as long as you were there and happy and actually alert, so that way he knew you were physically okay, that it would be fine. So what happened was I told my teacher like 20 minutes before the actual class ended that I needed to go out for a smoke. I need to breathe. And he just told me, okay, go right ahead, go outside, take a breather or two, and then come back in like 4 or 5 minutes. So what happened was when I was outside, my uncle was crossing the street to go to a convenience store. And I'll remind you, there's a lot of stuff in this area. Like, there's a rec center, there's a high school, there's an entire different shopping area. Like, if you cross the street, there's lunch and stuff like that. So I saw him, I ran after him, and then I asked him, how's my uncle doing? And he goes and tells me the truth. He's like, bud, it's not looking really good. So what happened was I went to the principal's office after that, and I sat down with my vice principal, and I told him, listen, right now I just feel like I should just go home. I don't really feel like in the proper headspace. I tried to do it all day. I really couldn't do it. And he said he understood, and he filled out paperwork for me to go home for a year. Okay? A year. Because I told him I want to be off like school property for a year, but I'll come like once a week to get paperwork so that way I can go and still do schooling. So we filled out that paperwork, and I went to my aunt and uncle's house, and I sat down with them and I said, listen, due to the fact that everything that's going on, I feel like I should go and stay home and do online schooling. So they understood completely, and they allowed me to do online schooling. So when I was doing online schooling, I think it was like a week after I went and told the principal I don't want to do like in schools learning. Online learning would be better for me right now. I got a call from my mom saying that my uncle passed away. And then a few days later, my aunt passes away. 2 weeks later, my uncle passes away. 3 weeks later, my great grandfather passes away. And then more cousins, more aunts. And at this point, we've lost 8 people in 2 months. And a year went by, and I went back to that school, and it was like something took over in everyone's minds when I was meeting them, except for one person, and that was the resource teacher who I talked to multiple times about mental health problems and stuff like that. And she was literally the only one that didn't put a label on anything. She looked at me for me, and I loved that. But what happened was when I told the principal what happened, alright? Like, you're supposed to go to a meeting after your time is up to explain of what happened. I went there and I explained. And they thought I was lying to get out of a year's work. So they pretty much said that I lied to their face. And at that point, I'm a little pissed off because they're telling me, hey, yeah, I lied about my uncle dying. I lied about a whole bunch of family members dying for the reason of getting out of school. Now, one, I wish I thought of that, okay? Because I would have been out of school sooner. But at the same time, that's also fucked up to say to someone that you don't even know if they lost someone or not, and you are honestly going in saying, hey, yeah, you are lying straight to our face about doing this stuff. Like, that's pretty much like someone going up to a teacher in the middle of them, like, having a meeting and saying, hey, yeah, you're fired for not having a meeting. Like, anyways, so they tell me I pretty much lied, and there's going to be a full investigation on it. I'm suspended from that point on, blah, 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 blah. Well, it turned out that they were fucked for assuming that because I proved them fully wrong. And they went in, they were saying sorry and all this stuff. And then I'm like, I just want to get back to school and stuff like that. Well, one thing that they forgot to tell me was how I was doing in school. They didn't tell me if I was doing good or if I was doing bad. They didn't tell me if my like stuff was doing okay. Now, I have a reading and writing disorder. Also now I have PTSD and stress and much more. But the main thing is PTSD. And I'm telling you right now, if you guys don't think I have PTSD, you obviously don't know me. You obviously don't know anyone that I talk to, because everyone I talk to and everyone I know can clearly see that I have PTSD from the day I was told that my uncle was dead. So that part just blew my mind when they didn't tell me if I was good enough to stay in school and stuff like that. And they tell me, oh yeah, you've been kicked out of school due to the fact that you have 20 days absent and then 30 days without doing any assignments. Now, that 30 days was the month of actual full grieving. Like, my mood swung so many different days every hour, to the point I had friends call me up and tell me that I need to go out with them that night. I need to hang out with someone so that way I can get this off my mind. I thought they weren't helping me for shit when they were actually helping me a lot. So what happened was one of my friends took me to his place one night, and we got so stoned to the point that everything just flew away. Everything slipped my mind. I didn't think of anyone except for my mental health, my friend, and our two friends that were there with us. Like, we were just thinking about each other, no one else. And what happened was I went to the school the next day. Like, I stunk like weed. I didn't even smell it. Like if you saw me from a mile away and I came closer to you, and you'd smell weed on me from being 20 feet away. That pretty much right there just shows you how much weed I smoked that entire time. So I go to the school, spray a whole bunch of Axe on me, I'm good. I go into the front doors, and there's two officers there. And I'm not talking about like security guards or anything like that. I'm talking about full police officers, and they know what I look like because there's there's an entire wall of people that are like kicked out, suspended, and stuff like that who aren't supposed to be on school property whatsoever. And I was on the very top. And the reason that I wasn't allowed on school property was because of my mental health. And they thought I was going to go and punch the shit out of someone that talked shit about my family that day. Which I wasn't going to do, even though if I was, I would have laughed. So they walked me right into the principal's office, and they're like, "Ma'am, do you want to go and press charges on this young man for trespassing and stuff like that?" I'm like, and I was like, "So can you please tell me why I was like I'm suspended for doing this stuff and this stuff? Like, I worked from home and I didn't stop except for the 1 month I was grieving."